Hello from Oslo and welcome to today's afternoon tea conversation. I'm Ingeborg from Women in Global Health Norway. With this series, we're highlighting some of our members, and today I'm having a chat with a dear colleague, Jeanette Magnus, member of our national chapter and also our special counselor. Jeanette is the director of the Center for Global Health at the University of Oslo, and hence, and most importantly, she's our network host, so to speak, as she has welcomed our secretariat to be based at the center. Jeanette is the former head of the Institute for Health and Society, one of 3 institutes at the University of Oslo's Faculty of Medicine, and she's the former chair and current adjunct professor at the Tulane School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine in the US. She's an associate editor of the high-impact factor journal Biology of Sex Differences, and I really could go on, but I would rather turn to you now, Jeanette. Welcome. It's really great to see you here today.
Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity.
So to start off and give our viewers a chance to get to know you, can you tell us a bit about the personal history that led you to where you are today?
Yeah, I was 6 years old when I decided I wanted to become a physician. And all the aunts of my mother, they were patting my head and say, "Oh, poor you, are you not going to have children?" So then I decided I want to be both a doctor and have children. And by the age of 29, I had 3 kids and I was a physician on my way to become a rheumatologist. So in a way, I'd done what my heart had desired. But then having 3 kids, working time shift in the hospital was time consuming, and it didn't give too much time for personal and private life. And then I was recruited to be a lecturer at the University of Tromsø, and then also challenged if I wanted to do research. And it was easier to combine research with having small children. So I ended up doing a PhD. And that was very interesting, very challenging and exciting. But then I really wanted to finalize my work as a physician and my training as a rheumatologist. And I saw that it was difficult to combine laboratory science and experiments where you had to do the timing and run with the clinical work. So I retrained myself as the immunologist, doing courses and so on together with my PhD students. And yeah, that was very excited. We were part of initiating the first large population-based osteoporosis study in Tromsø, was advocating for a national collaboration, and that is today one of the largest population-based networks of osteoporosis research in the world. And so in a way, you could say I am the grandmother and perhaps even the great-grandmother for many PhDs working on osteoporosis in Norway. Then my husband really wanted to follow his dream, and that was to be in Siemens mission and one of the churches around the globe. And he chose New Orleans in the United States. And I said, okay, I'll give you 2 years and be a trailing spouse. And off we went. We stayed there for 13 years. It was really exciting. Started working on women's health much more than I had done. I had started in Norway, but really got into it. Was part of funding the team that established a journal that you just mentioned, Biology of Sex Differences. I was heading up a National Center of Excellence in Women's Health for Tulane University, and was part of a national network in the US. I was also getting involved in leadership development of women, both in public health, maternal and child health, as well as in academia, and how to teach women's health and sex biology differences for medical school and health sciences students. And then I got a job to get to Oslo, and the rest you mentioned.
Wow, it's quite the journey. I wish I could go and dig deep into more than half of that. But let's focus a little bit to keep our story straight here. What are you currently involved with?
Over the last soon to be 20 years, I've been very much engaged in capacity development in higher education, and particularly increase research and research education. I did that at Tulane at the School of Public Health, where we were working on going from a teaching intensive institution to become also a research intensive institution. And I've continued that work on different institutions then in Africa, particularly in Ethiopia. I've also worked on some of the similar subjects related to women's health in Taiwan. So currently, I think it's still institutional capacity development related to higher education institutions, research education, and global health, much more now than it was 30 years ago.
Would be fun to hear your reflections on the change during all these years.
That's an interesting question, Ingeborg, and I think that one of the things that's been very important is that in the beginning it was very few women, and my focus has always been increasing the number of women in senior positions and higher education, because we know from the history of Norway, for instance, that it was the universities that was facilitating the advancement of democracy in Norway 200 years ago. And so it is in the global south. It is extremely important to have a strong higher education institution and also have women coming up so that other women can have women role models. So we have had several projects, and on one of them, a large NORAD project, where we have focused on recruiting particularly 50% women then to some of the PhD development programs we have, as well as some of the courses we have done. So we need more women leaders in global health. And I think if you advance a teacher in a South, global South institution, you actually impact all the students that teacher is interacting with in her lifetime. And that is something special.
So are there any defining moments in your life that shaped you as a leader?
I think I want to say I had a very dynamic advisor for my PhD. He was like, yeah, okay, do you swim or don't you? Gave extremely challenging tasks and opportunities, but it was your decision whether you wanted to be able to swim or not. There was no opportunity that this is how you do it, and there was no blueprint. You just had to try, and it was a trial and error session. And I think also the second opportunity was when I came to Tulane in New Orleans, where I met a very exciting pioneer in chronic disease epidemiology, Paul Welton. And he was like, okay, this is what I would like you to do. And then he just let me loose. And the trust was perhaps what made you feel this as an honor.
Trust is a mighty powerful tool, that's for sure. So what attracts you to Women in Global Health as a movement, and how do you see a place for a network like ours in Norway?
It actually encompasses all the things that I think have been important in my career over 30 plus something years now in higher education. We need more women. We have a lot of growth. We have many women that enter medical school, 75% in many countries around the globe. But it's this whole thing about balance of work and family life, and that women tend to be older when they're finished with their education, so that then if they're planning then to have children and family, that is something we really need to support them in order for them to do. But then it's also one of the challenges that you're supposed to do it all, and you're supposed to do it well. You're supposed to look well. You're supposed to exercise all the time and do all the fancy things. And I'm sure one of the other people that you've had on this call have talked about some of that pressure. Plus also that the environment and the system is still a man's world. The rules, the opportunities is still there. Made for men. Very often they will ask if there is, and this is published in the literature, so it's not something that I pull out of the thin air. It's like you will ask if there is a female candidate for a job. You will ask, has she done it? But if it's a male, it is, can he do it? And that difference is actually what we still are faced with as women when we are getting more senior and want more leadership opportunities.
So finally, Jeanette, to our viewers out there, what are the words of wisdom you would like to have heard earlier on in your career? You told us you were thrown out to learn to swim.
I think it's very important to follow your heart and to be true to yourself and not cut corners. It won't help you in any way to try and compromise. You cannot compromise on yourself, your children, your family, your integrity, or your ethical perspective on whatever kind of job it is that you're doing. And you should be straightforward and actually also present yourself as who you are. If you're trying to fake it, the ones who will discover it is those you work with. If you're not, what should I say, genuinely you. That's why most leadership courses, conferences, and so on also focus on the importance of getting to know yourself so that you actually know who you are and thus can become a more efficient as well as genuine leader.
Well, Jeanette, you are one of the wisest women I know. So thanks for sharing your reflections and a little bit of your story with us. It's a great privilege to be working with you truly and have you in our chapter.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, Ingeborg, and have a blessed weekend.
So thanks to our viewers for tuning in, and we look forward to welcoming you back for the next afternoon tea conversation with Women in Global Health Norway.